want to welcome everybody to another episode of A Single Story. Today, Christine and I are very happy to welcome Dan Hume. Dan owns Hume Termite up in North County, San Diego. Dan and I have been working together for a little over 25 years now. He handled my first listing doing the termite inspection. It went great. We connected as friends, as family men, and on different levels. And then we've done really well at just helping each other navigate the real estate market since 1995 for me. I know for you it's been a little bit longer, but Dan, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both of you guys. I appreciate the invite, and I'm happy to be on. It's fun. First time I've done it.
Well, you've been such a huge part of what we've accomplished, and almost every house either is going to get termites or has them already, and so you're a big part of our referral partner network, and we rely very heavily on you and who you are as a person. Being an independent company ourselves, finding somebody else who is ethically sound, who's going to do the right things, who always comes straight, to us, and also your ability or willingness when we do have a homeowner that's questioning something or needs a kind of next level, for you as the owner of the company to come out with us and meet with them personally and show them what's going on and rest assured that it's being done right is always something I've admired about you and how you work.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's something I really enjoy doing. I tried to sit, behind a desk in the office a few years back, and it's very difficult for me to do. I rather interact with people, and I still learn things. Every time I look at a house, I'm probably close to 40,000 inspections in my career.
Wow.
And every time I go to a new place, a new home or a new structure, whatever it is, I always learn. And that's the exciting thing about me about what I do is wood destroying organisms are such a kind of a mystery to a lot of people. But I think there's a few things that just, if you follow a few guidelines, you can really keep them under control. They're not as big of a mystery as I think, or as a misunderstanding as most people may think, or what they hear. They hear advertisement on TV or on the radio where a person is leaning up against the wall and it falls through. It just is not the case here in Southern California. I think it's true that every home has termites or will eventually get termites here in San Diego. I think the very fortunate part of the whole scenario here in San Diego is we have a very mild subspecies of drywood termites and western subterranean termites, and they're just not like other parts of the country. Florida, Texas, Hawaii, obviously New Orleans, Mississippi, they have very, very aggressive termites, where here they're extremely mild. And I see one of the mistakes that people make is they get pressured, or they get kind of told by certain people that they have to act immediately. And that's one thing they do not have to do here in San Diego. Other parts of the country, yes, it's true, you have to be very, very quick about treating termites. Here you don't. And you have the luxury of kind of sitting back and getting 2 or 3 different opinions. Mm-hmm. And understanding really what you're dealing with and what the best way to take care of your situation. And so that's one of the biggest mistakes I see homeowners make, is they'll get one guy, one inspector, one company to come out, and they sign instantly because they think that it's their house. Again, they're going to lean against the wall and it's going to fall over, and it's just not the case.
Yeah, we were at dinner. We were at dinner the other night, and somehow the subject came up, and our daughter, who's 10 now, Lolly says, "Well, wow, if they got into the house, are they going to eat all the cabinets and the wood floors? And what can't they eat? Is it all just going to come down on us?"
Yeah.
Like, she started having, like you said, from the commercial, kind of a panic attack about these little guys are just going to chew up the whole house in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be left with a pile of sawdust.
It's going to collapse.
Yeah, well, it's just not the case here. I mean, it takes years and years, and normally homes that have the real kind of more detailed problems or more expensive issues are homes that have water intrusion issues. So and I've been saying for years, it's the undetectable moisture intrusion, either through windows or flashing on the roof line that's not properly sealed or not done properly. Those, when you give wood destroying organisms access to moisture, and obviously it's unintended moisture, but when you're giving them moisture, they can grow larger, more aggressive colonies. And I say aggressive in a kind of a loose way, I guess, because again, they're really, the colonies here in Southern California just don't get that big. For example, a thriving drywood termite colony that we fumigate for maybe get to about 4,000 members, where in Hawaii, the subterranean, the Formosan termites get to 5 to 10 million members. So it's a supply and demand thing. So here in Southern California, yes, they cause damage. They cause more damage when you have roof leaks or window leaks or irrigation, landscape irrigation going up against the side of the house and is giving them access to moisture. You need to really, what you need to do is just really eliminate that moisture. And people come to me and they say, we're ready to tent. We've been in our house for 25 years. We have termites flying inside of our bedroom. We're ready to tent. And one of my first questions is, how is your roof? What's the life of the roof? Is it leaking? Are your windows leaking? And they say, oh, our roof leaks like a sieve. And I always tell them, well, your sequence is wrong. Sure, you can fumigate for termites now, but next swarming season, because your roof is leaking, it's such a conducive area, they're going to start and go, create a colony in half the time, rather than if it was sound, dry lumber. It's a lot harder for those drywood termites. You have to remember, drywood termites live in a very dry environment. They live in wood that over time gets to about 5% moisture content. So it's very difficult for them to sustain large colonies in such a dry environment. Like us living in the Mojave Desert, it would be very difficult to raise a family there. There's no moisture there. So when they find access to moisture, they get really happy and excited, and they start creating larger colonies. And those are the homes. So and kind of go back a little bit, you don't ever need to really jump into anything. You need to get 2 or 3 opinions, and you need to understand what the root cause of the problem is. And all wood destroying organisms, there's a root cause, whether it's a design flaw, whether it's a conducive condition like earth to wood contact, or faulty grades, or a roof leak. So you get on the termite industry loves to get you on what I call the termite hamster wheel.
Right.
And it spins and it spins and it spins, but there's never a really final solution to the problem. Mm-hmm. And they don't really talk about root cause or something where you have to, when you understand that you have termites, you need to sit back and say, okay, where are they and why are they thriving? And are they getting access to moisture? And that's one of the biggest things that people need to understand, is to take their time, understand the moisture intrusion issues, and just get different inspections. And when you do order an inspection from a termite company, you always want to get a complete inspection of the entire house. Limited inspections tend to have limited warranties, and people don't understand that until they try and enact a warranty, and the termite company says, well, we just inspected your living room and we treated the ceiling in the living room, and that's where the warranty stops. Yeah. So take your time, get 2 or 3 termite inspections, and always get a complete inspection, and allow the termite access to your home and really do the most thorough inspection that they can. So you can always create history and always keep that history. And that's another mistake I see homeowners make all the time is, I'll always ask them, what's the treatment history of your home? And they said, well, we locally treated 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Well, where was it? What kind of product did they use? And people don't know that. And it's really good idea to understand the history. Mm-hmm. So you're not paying for dead, either inactive droppings. Just because there are droppings in the insulation doesn't make it an active colony. Just because you have damage in your fascia doesn't mean that it's an active colony. So the termite companies are going to insist that it's active, and they're going to continually keep charging for, that evidence that they're seeing. And they're not going to ask you the history, but that's one of the things that they should be. So it's up to the homeowners to keep good records and really understand what's been done in the past.
Yeah. What's your suggestion? So we see on the report, Greg goes out to look at one of our homes, and you have these areas that he just can't get into physically, or can't get a light back in there and see. So it shows up as inaccessible. Not somewhere in the garage where we could move boxes out of the way, but somewhere just physically someone can't get back in there.
Well, we had one this week where there was a skylight, and that's where the attic access was, and Greg couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
So it was kind of impossible.
It's for a listing, the liability goes up a little bit when we can't see certain areas. It makes us nervous. For a homeowner, I always try and tell people, you don't lose sleep over things that you can't see when it comes to wood destroying organisms. So you would drive yourself insane as a homeowner if you think that there are termites inside your walls all the time, working all the time, and you can't go down that path. Most of the time when we do inaccessible areas, it's because we suspect something's going on. So if you've got wood siding on your home and you've had your grass or your landscape irrigation up against the wood siding for a number of years, and that wood siding is all rotten, we can only call what we can see, but
right.
We can, in writing, put kind of a question mark in homeowners' minds, or if we're, obviously if the wood siding is rotten, there's a good chance that interior framing is rotten as well. And it's not guaranteed, but it's a possibility. So that's where it's a liability thing for those inaccessible areas. And we could talk a lot about this inaccessible areas. As a buyer, I always suggest, if it's practical, you want to open up and look in areas. If you're dealing with and working with a good termite company that you trust, you're going to trust that they understand, or their guess or their hunch is right, that there's going to be an issue behind especially rotted areas or water roof leaks or things like that. As a buyer, I tend to tell people, spend that little bit of money to open up those areas. And then obviously if that goes into a Section 1 item, that would be, depending on the contract, fall under the seller's responsibility to fix. So it's kind of like a crapshoot for the buyer, but I think it's a good idea to do your due diligence. And again, not everything is going to be practical. Sometimes, attics can be inaccessible, and we do that more of a liability thing. So we've had cases where we've cleared homes where we could not get into the attic, cleared it with no findings on the exterior, and then the next swarming season, August through October, the buyers call us a few months later after we cleared it, and they've got swarming termites coming out of that void in the attic.
Yeah.
So then we can refer back to that inaccessible area and say, well, we couldn't look.
Yeah.
And it's just because of the way the house was built.
If the home is tented, because this particular one does need to be tented, would that cover? I guess that would warranty that anyway if it has to be tented, right? Or
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for that instance, it probably doesn't make a difference because it needs to be tented anyway.
Yeah, the only time you really have problems with fumigations, because sulfurofluoride is an excellent fumigant, Viking gas. It's designed as a single molecule to really go through things. Where I've seen problems with Viking gas is on very, very tall buildings, or like 3-story structured or layered kind of leveled structures where they have flat roof systems, and it's not a traditional attic where we can introduce the gas into the attic and let it disperse from there. So sometimes the Viking gas has a hard time getting through certain membranes, like possibly a torch down roof, possibly what's called a California fill. It's a type of roof system where you can't access the attic, or sometimes decks, big second story balconies that are waterproofed a certain way with like a life deck system. And the gas has a harder time sometimes to get through those areas. So the solution to that is a little bit more gas and a little bit more exposure. So normally 2.5-day process for fumigation. In certain cases, and it's not every time, because sulfurfluoride is an excellent gas and a great fumigant, but sometimes you need a little extra exposure time to allow the gas to get through certain areas.
Yeah. Now that you're talking about the treatment and the gas that's used, a lot of people will ask, is it safe to go back in for my pets, or, what's how's it going to affect my plants and my interior, my exterior plants that are close to the home? There are other alternatives that we see people talking about, like orange oil and some of these things. Can you maybe talk a little bit just to the safety of it after treatment and the reason that you would recommend using one product over another?
Yes. Yeah. So fumigants are fantastic. They're good in the fact that they're the only 100% whole structure eradication. Doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter if they're in inaccessible areas. It's going to eradicate them if it's done correctly. If the cubic volume is if the cubic volume is measured correctly, if the fume log and if the seal is done correctly around the structure, it's 100%. So you have to think of it's a pure gas. So you almost have to think of it, and I compare it to almost cooking gas. So like natural gas, it's a single molecule. You would turn your stove on. The gas would fill the room without igniting on a stove. You would smell the gas. It's in the room. You would turn the gas source off. You would open doors and windows. It would air out without leaving any residual. So it's just exactly like that. It's a non that doesn't leave any kind of residual anywhere within the structure. If it did, California would never allow it. And California has proven that in the fact that we used to use methyl bromide years and years ago, and they found that methyl bromide came together as a gas and didn't leave residual, but left gas hiding in mattress pads, in sofa pads, in couch pads, whatever it is, carpet padding. So every time you laid in bed, it off-gassed. And when California discovered that, they immediately got rid of the methyl bromide fumigant. It was like 30 years ago. So California is constantly testing. They know how to look. They know where to look and what to look for. Their testing methods get better and better and better over time. And like I said, if it's done correctly, fumigation is about the safest way and the most thorough way you can do it, because you're really exposed to it. The protocol is it has to be less than 1 part per million to even allow you back into the structure. So with all the safeguards that we have to get it to 1 part per million, and the testing that we do as a fumigation company to get it to 1 part per million, it's extremely safe for homeowners.
And you cut out for a second. Were you saying the gas that you use now is non-binding, so it doesn't get into the carpet or the mattress or anything?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not. And California tests that annually.
Yeah.
They're constantly testing for public safety.
Yeah.
And they're trying to disprove what the manufacturer claims is it doesn't leave any residual behind. And, because California gets paid for what they do, they're constantly testing insecticides, pesticides, fumigants. Okay. And it's an extremely safe, if it's done correctly, again, it's extremely safe, and it's extremely effective. Now, I know that there are tons of people that do not want to go through the fumigation process for whatever reason, and I completely respect that. I fumigated my house for the first time about 6 months ago in 30 years, and we did it for something other than termites, and it was it was not fun. It was, it is a little bit more work. You have to be out of the house for 2.5 days, but it's extremely thorough. But for people that are not comfortable with fumigations, I really like, I primarily just use 2 products. I use a product called Termidor, which has an active ingredient called fipronil. And fipronil is the same active ingredient as in like Frontline or Advantage, which you use on your dog or your cat's back for fleas and tick. Most everybody knows about Frontline or Advantage. So Frontline or Advantage is used at a 10% solution. We use it to control termites at 0.06% solution. So it's extremely mild. It has a very low VOC content. It's extremely mammal safe. It's considered a non-repellent liquid termiticide. So when you talk about liquid termiticides, there's 2 categories. There's a repellent liquid termiticide like orange oil, like a pyrethroid, going back farther like Duraspan, and there's a number of different types of repellent products. So you inject the repellent product into the galleries of the termite, inside your fascia or inside your wall. They can sense the off-gassing, the termites, and they run away for as fast as they possibly can. Obviously, if the product comes in contact with them, it eradicates them. But, they're a social insect, so they can take a little bit of a loss of colony and still rejuvenate the colony. So if you use a repellent product, and you get it into the gallery and you don't eradicate or don't come in contact with 100%, you're not going to get 100% kill. Fipronil or Termidor is different in the fact that it's a non-repellent product. Because the toxicity levels are so low and the off-gassing is such a minimum, the termites understand it or think of it more as a moisture source rather than something that's going to kill them on contact or burn their feet and they run away from it. So it's something that has got what's called a lot of bioavailability. So it's designed to attach to the cuticle or exoskeleton of the insect. And because they're a social insect, they'll take it back and spread it within the colony. The mode of action works on their central nervous system. It takes about 7 to 10 days for that mode of action to start affecting the termite. So in that period between treatment and the mode of action starting to take effect, you've got a week of these termites interacting with one another. So you don't have to introduce as much product into the gallery, and they tend to spread it out within themselves with, unknowingly doing that.
Yeah.
So I've been using that product for years. I absolutely love it. It is extremely effective. The second product that I really like is sodium borate, wood preservative, a product called Board Defense. It's just a powdered borate mineral that you mix with water and you apply it to either termite galleries or unpainted or unsealed wood. And that molecule, the borate molecule, is so soluble that it diffuses into the wood. It actually replaces the water inside of the cells of the wood with this alkaline salt, and it fundamentally breaks down the metabolic process of termites. So once you treat wood, you're using a product that is a boron-based product, which we wash clothes like the U.S. 20 Mule Team or U.S. Borax soap. It's essentially the same stuff. It's extremely safe for people. It has really no VOC content, and once it diffuses into the wood, it's a real final solution because you're taking away the wood as a food source for the wood-destroying organisms. And the beautiful thing about it registered against all wood-destroying organisms, so not just. Did I lose you? I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just got a phone call.
out just a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're back.
You're back.
Just for a second.
Okay, sorry about that. I just got a phone call. So I'll back up a little bit. The beautiful thing about sodium borate is it's safe. It takes away the wood as a food source when treated, and it's not something you have to treat multiple times. You treat it once, and if the percentages are good and the diffusion rate is good into the wood, that wood is going to be basically, it's going to, defend itself against, the borate is going to help defend against wood destroying organisms for the life of it. And that's something I'm sure you and I have talked about that, Tim, in the past. One of my favorite treatments that I do, out of all the treatments that I do, is helping people when they build homes. They're building their dream home. I could go in and with this simple mineral and treat all the framing, because everything's exposed when you're building.
Right.
Treat everything twice at 15%, and it is an excellent long-term treatment. I have many hundreds of homes in San Diego County that I've done over the 30 years, and I've not had one failure.
So this is a pre-treatment with the wood before the builder starts building the home that you do, and then when they build it, it's already covered.
Correct. You can do it. So you can do it as you build. You can incorporate the borate into existing homes over time through, maybe if you re-roof, you can do the roof sheathing. Maybe you remodel, you can do the framing. Maybe you do, 100 or 300, 200 or 300 feet of fascia repair. You can treat that fascia before you prime it, before you put it into place. And that way, that little bit of modification and that repair, that fascia will not fail again going forward.
And that lasts for how long?
It's an indefinite thing. Once it incorporates, basically once it becomes a part of the wood, it's very difficult to leach out. And you do need to protect it because it's a soluble molecule. So for fascia, you do need to paint it, or if you have a fence, let's say you put a brand new, beautiful wood fence up, you can treat this product, you could treat the wood with this product, the borate product, and it's got no scent and it's got no color. So you don't change the appearance of the wood in any way, yet that wood is going to become a non-food source for wood destroying organisms. But you do have to seal it in and lock it in. So those are primarily the two that I don't do heat. I don't do electric. I've seen them fail over time. Orange oil is a solvent. I just have read too much data and seen too much evidence in the field over time. I just use the stuff that I like, that I know works and I know is safe.
Great.
What is your opinion on the orange oil? Because I mean, we see that a lot on TV, and a lot of people think it's a great thing.
They have great marketing. I think it fits into some people's scenario. It's not as safe. It's the active ingredient, and I don't want to get into trouble for stepping on other people's toes, but the active ingredient is D-limonene. So that means it is a highly off-gassing product. It off-gasses a tremendous amount. You can smell it. Just because it smells like oranges doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you. It is highly flammable, and it's very short-term in the walls. So you treat in the walls because of the off-gassing. It's like pouring a solvent topically on a piece of wood. So if you were to take paint thinner, and I'm not suggesting that they're the same, but if you were to take paint thinner and put it on wood, it off-gasses and you can smell it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. There's no more paint thinner. Mm-hmm. It's because it's off-gas and it dissipates. And it's the same as the D-limonene. D-limonene is used in engine degreasers at Pet Boys. It's the same active ingredient. It's probably different percentages, but it's still the same active ingredient. I just, I use things that prove themselves over time. I'm not one when, people come to me and they say, hey, we've got this great bug killer, termite killer, why don't you try it? And even if I liked the chemistry of it, I wouldn't introduce it into the public, or at least my customers, until I tried it either on my own house or on friend's house over a period of time. There's a stain that I've been helping develop for the past, probably 8 years. And it's a fantastic stain in the fact it's highly water repellent. It's mold resistant, so it doesn't change colors over time. I love it. I didn't introduce it into my first customer for about 5 years because I when somebody gave it to me, the chemist basically came to me and gave it to me. I used it on my fence in my backyard, and I watched it for years before I would talk about it to my clientele. So to understand, I don't want to introduce something, or I don't want to just get on the latest and greatest gimmick and then have my customers upset with me. So I do tried and true methods, and I test those methods myself in the field for a long time before I really introduce them to my customers.
Good.
So I'm not a huge fan of orange oil, but you know, like I said, some people really like it. Myself, I don't use it.
Yeah, thank you. When Greg goes out to do an inspection, or one of your other inspectors that are in the field, they're not just looking only for termites. Can you kind of elaborate just about what happens in that initial inspection and talk to, you know, rodents, crickets, termites,
Dry rot.
dry rot, other things that you're looking for, so that people understand the comprehensive field inspection that's being done with one of your inspectors?
Sure. So again, we have, there's a couple different things we can talk about this. We have what's called a separated report. It's a termite report. It's issued by the state of California. It's separated in the fact that it talks about Section 1 items that are defined as activity or damage of a wood-destroying organism, or Section 2 items, which are considered conducive conditions, any conditions that are going to lead to a wood-destroying organism. So Section 1 would be termite damage, dry rot, obviously damage, powder post beetles, carpenter bees, carpenter ants, or conducive conditions. Section 2 could be, like we talked about earlier, roof leaks, earth to wood contacts. So when we go on site to a structure, like I said earlier, you always want to do a complete inspection. A lot of termite companies like to do limited inspections because they don't spend the time on the house. They can still sell a job by saying, you've got termites in your fascia. We don't know what's in your attic, or we don't know what's in your garage, but we know you have a little spot here in your fascia, and we're going to sell you a fumigation. But the problem with that is again, the limited warranty could be limited to that fascia. Even with the fumigation, it can be limited to a certain area. So if you go to sell your house, and I've seen this happen, within the warranty period, you may be looking at other treatments because the rest of the house wasn't looked at. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
So you always do a complete inspection. We usually start on the exterior. We do a diagram of the structure, and we look for not only activity of a wood-destroying organism, but any kind of conducive condition. And that's something I'm not seeing the termite industry spend a lot of time on. You know, we used to spend, termite companies used to spend a lot of time on it 20, 25 years ago. Today, they tend to stick to the activity, and they don't talk about flashing leaks or window leaks or wood contacts. And it's a real shame, because if you don't take care of the root problem, again, you get on that termite hamster wheel and you never get off. And homeowners get extremely frustrated because they don't understand why their termites come back so quickly. Why do I have termites again? I just fumigated my house, 4 or 5 years ago. Why do I have them again? And it's because the termite company is not discussing those Section 2 items, or really the root cause of the termite issues. Again, wood destroying organisms have to do with everything about design, right? Design of a structure. So if you build with concrete and metal, you don't get wood destroying organisms. If you built with, I got the privilege of looking at a Frank Lloyd Wright design here in San Diego years ago, and it had, if you've ever seen his architecture or his designed homes, they have huge flat eaves that stick way out. And this house, it leaked like a sieve, and it had huge termite problems because it leaked like a sieve. So it's all about conditions, and it's all about how your house is designed. Some designs are a lot more vulnerable to wood destroying organisms. Some are a lot less vulnerable. And it just depends on the type of house that you decide to buy. Unfortunately, the big, beautiful, really decorative types of homes that people love are the ones that tend to have the most problems because they're the hardest ones to waterproof. And they're just very vulnerable because of all the exposed wood and different detail on the exterior of the home. So I don't know if you remember, I don't know, Tim, if you remember, but there was a time that there were no separated reports.
Yes.
So there was a time where there was no section 1 or section 2 findings. It was all one termite report. And then the Structural Pest Control Board changed it years and years ago as separated. I think it had a lot to do with real estate to make the real estate transactions a lot easier and a lot smoother. Because it's one thing to tent your home for termites. It's another thing to correct a faulty grade issue that is 100 feet of stucco where you need to dig out and create a screed line. And the section 2 items can be very costly sometimes and very difficult to to repair or to make correct. Most section 2 items in my mind are structural defects, whatever it is. So sometimes those defects are extremely difficult to correct, but that's the reason that people with those types of conditions in their home keep having issues of termites over and over and over and over again, and they just can't figure out why it won't stop or why it's so happening so quickly. And it's because of it. Basically all rotates around water and design.
What about when you find rodent droppings? Is that considered a section 1 or section 2? Where do you put that?
Yeah, so in our industry, through the Structural Pest Control Board, who governs the state of California, they govern our industry. There's different licensing in our industry. So there's 3 branches. Branch 1 is a fumigation. Branch 1 licensee has the license to buy the gas, the Vicane gas, and introduce it into a structure. Branch 2 has a basically general pest control license, has a license to go in and inspect for ants, roaches, silverfish, birds, rodents, and make recommendations and to treat for those things. Branch 3 is all wood destroying organisms. So when termites, dry rot, whatever the wood destroying organism is. So I'm strictly a branch 3 company. I specialize in wood destroying organisms. A lot of termite companies do a lot of stuff in-house. They do branch 2 and branch 3 work usually in-house. I don't like that so much. I like to be very specific and specialize in one thing and concentrate on one thing. So when we're doing an escrow inspection and we're doing a termite inspection, which is actually called a wood destroying organism inspection, a WDO inspection, and we see droppings, we technically don't talk about that stuff because we're not licensed to talk about that, and we're not there to look at rodents. So for homeowners or realtors that have concerns about rodents, so let's say you guys call in a termite inspection, you would have to really specify and say, we're concerned about rodents, will you look for rodents? And we would tell you, no, sorry, we don't do that. But that's how the only time I would mention it in my report is if they were chewing through electrical wiring and it was real obvious in the attic, and I would refer you to I would say that there appears to be rodent activity in the attic. I recommend that you hire this branch 2 company to come out and look at it. So we do not, for termite inspections for escrows, we do not look at that stuff unless it's really obvious. And then, then I would refer you to a branch 2 company.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question from Christine because a lot of people ask about that. So, good. Yeah, I want to save some things for the next time we have you as a guest. This has been really good, but if I can just take a moment and talk a little bit about, let's just shift gears and go personal for a few minutes, if that's all right. And then we'll
Sure.
wrap up for the day and for this episode.
Thank
Uh,
you. Yeah, thank you.
but yeah, this has been great, Dan. So thanks so much.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of background. Where did you grow up? What was your family like growing up? What were your interests? You know chemicals. You know were you into science? Was biology your favorite and chemistry your favorite type of something scientifically?
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah. I grew up in Orange County, in North Laguna. Um, Graduated in 1984. Have a younger brother. I was really interested in earth science growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Really funny. Grew up and my interests were, I grew up on the beach, so my interests were surfing and fishing. I didn't bounce a lot of basketballs or, we did beach things, and ended up going to school and going up into Santa Barbara to go to school. I got really interested in biology and earth sciences. Wasn't getting what I wanted out of school. I ended up traveling and surfing. I lived in New Zealand for over a year and worked over there and spent a lot of time there in the early 80s. Well, it was like, I'm sorry, about 86, probably 87. Came home and was looking for work. And a buddy of mine introduced me to, Truly hired me and introduced me to the Nolan family, Truly Nolan.
Yep.
And I started at the repair end of things. I was always pretty good with the repair stuff. And I just got more and more interested in it. Did I think it was going to be a career 30 years later? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But I got more interested in I don't know really what attracted me to it. I think being outside, meeting people, attracted me to it, and being really interested and curious. And I was really self-taught. I mean, I was taught a lot by Truly Nolan, and I worked for Terminix, and I worked with some other smaller companies before I started Hume Termite, but was just really interested in the termite. Again, it's that mystery kind of thing with termites. For me, it has to do with outdoors, and I just really got interested in the whole process about life cycle and how they work. And it's really been 30 years of understanding, and I've made mistakes in the past. I've really learned from, what, the I guess the whole termite industry has kind of, they kind of beat into you at an early stage in your career. And I was lucky enough to kind of think around that and start kind of doing my own thing. And but it's been wonderful. I mean, I've met so many nice people, and I've learned so much about it. It's just been a wonderful experience for me. I really enjoy doing it. Like I said, I don't do well, answering phones behind my desk in the office. I just don't.
Yeah.
And I just every day I'm in the field, I learn and I see more new interesting things. And I just am blessed with the curiosity to keep learning about it and I just want to keep understanding more and more about it. And what's the ultimate way for me to take care of a home for people where it's less expensive, it's less intrusive. And that really, I would really, if you ever want to do this again, Tim, I would love to do this again. And I would really like to kind of get more into the sodium borate and the potential for people to understand about sodium borate and that borate wood preservative.
Yeah.
Because, it's a non-restricted product, which means anybody can buy it and anybody can apply it.
Yeah, we could even take the show on the road and film from a house or from a structure where we could kind of,
We could do that.
Yeah,
I
that
would
would be
love
good.
to do that actually, because I do almost 1 or 2 every Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm doing a beautiful home in Solana Beach, beautiful home on West Cliff in Solana Beach this weekend. So we could get out, and it's such a simple process.
Yeah.
And the success I've had, and what people don't realize about it is, once you protect the wood like that, it's not just wood destroying organisms, but sodium borate has a flash point to combust at about 3,800 degrees. So I've actually had my buildings catch on fire.
Oh.
I had one in particular catch on fire in '07 and put itself out. And that was the '07 was the Witch Creek fire, a house about an 8,000 square footer in Rancho Santa Fe. And so I would like to talk a little bit more about that, because that is kind of the ultimate goal, right? For me anyway. I don't fit into the termite business model, right? I don't want to get people on contract. I don't want to have to charge them every year. I want them to be self-sufficient and understand the process so they can take care of a lot of the stuff themselves, but also understand that there is a solution to the termite problem. It's not an ongoing, and it should never be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the ultimate goal, is, build structures where you don't have to worry about termites anymore.
Yeah, builders should.
You're not going to be.
Builders
should, but builders rather put an epoxy garage floor that they can sell rather than on the framing. And the reason I use that example is contractors have told me that before. But yes, I think it should be mandatory. It is mandatory in Hawaii. They build with a product called high bore over there. It's a straight sodium borate treated piece of lumber. And they've built, since 1998, I think they've done over 6,000 homes, and they've not had a failure. In Hawaii, which their wood destroying organisms are far more aggressive than ours. And so it's easily controllable here. We just need to get people educated and on that path, and we could talk about, I don't want to keep going on and on with you guys because I could talk about it forever, but we go through about 1 billion board feet of lumber every single year just to replace wood destroying organism damage. So termite damage or decay. So there's an organization called the NRDC. It's a Natural Resource Defense Council. And according to them, California consumes 1 billion board feet. So that equates to about 14 to 16 million acres annually.
Wow.
Just that's cut down and just allotted for wood destroying organism repair. That's not new builds. That's not fire damage.
Yeah, it's a ton of wood, ton of forest.
That's replacing. It's a ton of board feet, and it shouldn't be like that. And it's controlled by a very old school and a very old guard that doesn't like to lose that grip. But we consume a lot of lumber in the state of California and nationally, in the United States, that's unnecessary because borate can be treated at a mill level and it would be pennies.
Yeah.
And borate is very inexpensive. So let's talk about that next time.
Good. Yeah. Two last questions. Why don't you just share with us real quick, your wife, how you guys met, your family, you live in North County, just a little personal there. And then a big part of our show is really talking about how people are also in community. So anything, groups that you're a part of in community, any charitable organizations, things that you've done either through Protecting the Ocean, Surfrider Foundation, things like that I know you're a part of. Just talk to that for a second, but maybe just start with current home situation.
So that's a funny thing. I work with Terminex. I had problems with Terminex for different reasons I'm not going to get into right now, but I had problems. I went and worked for a little tiny company called Countywide. They were in Lemon Grove. This was way back when. And the first day I applied there, I walked in and introduced myself to the secretary there that turned out to be an office manager, but I didn't realize that at the time. And I introduced myself, and I ended up getting a job there, and that ended up being my wife. And the at Countywide, she ran the office at Countywide, the funny part about the story is she doesn't remember when I came in. We have two totally different opinions on how we met, but I'll never forget walking in and I was a pretty young kid back then, and I turned in my application and I met her at that time, but she doesn't remember it like that. But charitable organizations, and we've run Hume Termite for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
It's been like, it's been, I think, 19 years, if I remember correctly now. And we're still working together, which I know you two work together, and it takes a very special relationship to do business and family and home and husband and wife. It takes a very special relationship to be that involved with your spouse. So I'm extremely blessed that I met and married a wonderful lady, and we get along and we can still work together. And that, I don't know a lot of people can say that. I know there are out there. You two are an example of success on doing that, but I've also heard horror stories. Never work with your spouse and this and that and the other. But it's been great. I have 3 beautiful daughters that are 17, 15, and 8. My oldest one is going to be a senior this year. She's going to go to Penn State. She's going to get into forensic entomology. I know where she got the entomology part of it. We talk a lot about bugs at dinner, but the forensics is a little bit more interesting. She got that on her own, but she is going to go to Penn State and essentially talking about joining the Air Force and having them pay for the rest of her degree, but eventually and ultimately she wants to work for the FBI. Wow. And basically solve crime through forensic entomology, which I couldn't be more proud of her. Wonderful girl. So so charitable organizations. Oh boy. I do a lot of work with Habitat for Humanity. In fact, I just donated to treat 30 new homes that are being built here in San Diego. I'm doing that essentially at no charge for Habitat. They build them and I treat them. So I'm very excited about that. I've been working with Habitat for a number of years, but this is the first year that I really have donated this kind of work to them, and I'm really excited about it. They're really excited as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's a great organization. I donate a lot to local municipalities. So whenever I see fire department getting either remodeled or rebuilt, I've donated 8 different treatments and borate treatments on those structures. Part of North County Church. My kids are at Tri-City Christian in Oceanside. What else? I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting right now, but
no, it's okay. It just demonstrates. I mean, that's why I have you and the others that we've selected to be part of what we're doing. Is I know that we're not only doing what we should be doing work-wise every day to treat people fairly and right, but we're also giving back, being generous to the people around us, and I think that kind of brings us to our last question, which is just, we've all been dealing with this COVID thing for the last 5 months, 6 months now. And, how are you doing with finding motivation to get up every day, be a good dad? How has it impacted or motivated in certain ways to change how you look at things or see things? Or, how has it impacted you?
It's such a strange time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unprecedented. And everybody looks at it differently, I think. Some people, I think, are a little bit more relaxed about it. Some people are not so relaxed about it. I think I'm glad in the fact that it raises a lot of conscience on hygiene, washing your hands, wearing a mask. I mean, there's cultures that wear masks all the time. And I'm one that was guilty of, you see people in the airport 10 or 15 years ago wearing masks.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a very necessary thing. To keep people safe. We've been extremely fortunate that we're an essential business, and we've not really slowed down over this at all. So I feel extremely lucky about that. It doesn't take a lot to motivate me. I'm a guy that doesn't sleep a lot. I'm up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning trying to do something for either the house or, developing products. And I've got starting a kind of a line of products for homeowners to take care of their wood destroying organisms themselves, the stain being one of them.
Yeah.
So it's just such an unreal time. I just hope people are safe, and I hope people, it's such a short period of time when we think about it. I mean, even if we go 2 years with wearing masks and being safe and maybe not seeing, loved ones as much as we normally would like to, it's such a short-term thing. And if it, I'm all for it. If it lessens or shortens the amount of time that we, are not, coming back to a normal kind of life, I think it's worth it. It's just such an unusual time.
Yeah.
It's just unprecedented. But I just hope people stay safe and just respect other people's, and not to go off on, but I have a friend that very, very dear, close friend of mine that I went to high school with, and he's a structural engineer in Orange County. He owns a structural engineering firm. He's a great guy.
Okay.
Anyway, he's got a older brother that's a dentist, and they absolutely the older brother refuses to wear a mask, and he's a dentist, and I just don't understand the mentality. So they will go to dinner with the parents at the parents' home, and his parents are elderly. They're in their late 80s, early 90s, and his older brother, being a dentist, for whatever reason, refuses to wear a mask, and it is creating tension within the family because obviously the parents are worried because they're more vulnerable. They're elderly. People would have more respect for people. I mean, it's not about looking cool with a mask or doing any of that stuff. It's about protecting yourself and protecting other people for, again, a very short period of time. Even if it is 24 months, yeah. I think it's a short period of time, and people just needed to respect other people, wear their masks, wash their hands, and let's be done with it so we can get back to normal.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think that's
agree.
really well said. And, I think the underlying theme with a lot of people has been a little bit of foot off the gas, a little more time with the people that are closest to us. And so there have been some, bright lights within a darker time where we've recognized, what's really important. And, your whole theme is togetherness, is locking arms, all working together. Yep. And when we can create unity in our communities, our neighborhoods, our states, our country, and the world, then we all, I think, are a better society for it if we're working towards a common goal together.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. It's the community.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more.
This has been awesome. A ton of great information. Yeah. I know people a lot of questions that they ask us. We knew some of the answers from just being close to you for so long.
I've learned a lot just from this conversation though today.
Yeah. And so this would be a great episode, a great segment to share. And we just wish you continued success and good health to you and your family and the folks at Hume Termite. And
we love working with you.
We love working with you. We really appreciate
Thank you.
All that you've done for us. And let's plan a field shoot, a field episode where we can kind of delve a little bit more into some of the things you were sharing with us.
I would love to do that. And so are people going to have questions for this, or can people reach out? Is that a possibility, or how does that work?
They'll watch the episodes, but they can have interactive questions, and moreover, something that we can then connect them with the office and get it straight from you guys. So we should have a lot of interaction, and through social media, when we put it on a Facebook or Instagram, there'll be questions and comments within there that Ashley, Christy, and I will monitor and engage with you to get good quality answers to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to answer. I mean, people have questions. I mean, I eat, live, and breathe wood destroying organisms. Believe it or not, it's just something I really identify with, and there's a need for it because it's a funny industry. You just have to be really careful within this industry. There's a lot of game playing, and you just have to be careful. And the more I can interact with people, to help people on the straight path. And it's not just me helping them. A lot of this stuff they can do themselves, a lot of it. And it's just, people don't understand that. So if I can help, just let me know.
Awesome. Okay. Well, hey, you have a great weekend. Thank you so much for the time today. It was great to see you, and we'll be in touch. We'll be calling for our next.
Thanks a lot, guys.
In another day or two.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
All right,
you.
Dan, take care.
Okay,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.
See ya.